Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Business is math. We've talked about this many times. When you can understand what the math is telling you, you prevent yourself from spending time in places where your business would be unprofitable. Smart business people model their entire business plan and math before they begin. They find markets where people are already demanding what they can offer, and the profit margins are wide enough that you can handle a few bumps along the way. Some will even take the time to model the exit plan. Think this is crazy? Well, it's our topic today. While this is based on e-commerce, it works in every market. Our guest is Neil Twa. He is the founder and CEO of Voltage Digital Marketing. He has been launching, operating, and growing private label e-commerce businesses for the last 9 years. As of today, he and his clients have sold over $100 million in physical products, primarily through Amazon FBA sales channel. Neil shares his blueprint for how to build an online business that can generate passive, almost automated, 6-figure incomes in just 12 to 18 months, while setting up the business for potentially millions in sales within 18 to 24 months. Now that's impressive. Let's meet Neil. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Neil Twa. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me, Rocky. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, in short order, I will tell you that my entire life has revolved around e-commerce to some degree. The topic I'm sure we'll break down here as we go today. I actually jumped out of college to get into e-com when it wasn't so cool and rode the corporate train where the money was. Until leaving IBM in 2007. I broke out of there. I was an intrapreneur, doing my things on the side, knowing eventually I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And when the opportunity presented itself, I stepped into my own business model of management consulting. And as it turned out, I made IBM and a number of previous clients of my new company, which was fun, and then got heavily involved in online marketing to market that business and found I had a really great aptitude for paid traffic and strategies around customer acquisition and lead acquisition. Started to work with some companies in the affiliate space, helping them generate leads for their companies, and that took off pretty fast. Led me to promoting physical products, and then realizing if I could do that for for them, why couldn't I do it for myself? And as I investigated that opportunity for creating physical products and brands, I had a friend that presented me with the knowledge that Amazon, in this thing called Fulfilled by Amazon or FBA, was somewhere you could sell products to, and that was around 2010. When I took a look at it and realized some of the complexities of the physical traffic world, and then I looked at Amazon as a giant search engine of product-based buyers, I thought, well, dang, that is something I want to crack. So I spent the better part of 2 years kind of working in that engine, learning how it worked. I started by just flipping products to see how it would sell and how the whole thing went down. Bought a stupid course that was turned out to be a refund because they basically didn't tell me more about business and the numbers and how to make it profitable than I already knew in business. And I thought, well, that was a waste of money. But the good thing I got out of that connection was my business partner, Reed Larson, who connected through that network, who now 9 years later, he and I are still business partners. So that was the good thing that came out of that. And it taught me to basically get in the details and obviously figure out the e-commerce and physical product space. Fast forward 9 years later, still in this business model between myself and my clients, generated over 100 million in sales on FBA and have become very successful in ourselves and had a lot of clients. We stayed focused on it. We built softwares and tools and technology and optimizations around it and have been very focused on building private label brands and expanding them into the market.
And you were, I guess that was pretty early into the game of Amazon, correct?
Very. Yeah. There wasn't too many people I know who were ahead of me. Just a few. Yeah. Amazon bought the FBA company, which is a separate company, and incorporated it into their brand in order to build that infrastructure last mile to the customer.
And they have done a tremendous amount in the last 10, 11 years. And
15 plus billion in infrastructure built. Yeah. Delivering so many packages, it's insane.
It is insane. People just want to buy.
Yes, they do. And there's all kinds of stuff they can buy. 630 million a day at last check.
Wow. Incredible.
And
he's a very smart man. I mean, their premise is to always look at it as day one, right?
Very much so.
Always
30 seconds or less, right? All things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And with that mantra, he has almost attained that, I believe, now.
Reinventing the way they do things. So you also had another person that you work with, Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks from Shark Tank.
Yeah, he and I connected about 6 years ago at a group event and kind of became fast friends, kept connected and had a couple of business dealings together. Most recently, he's involved in the portfolios division of Voltage, which is our acquisition and exit business. And so we have been working through our company to, kind of a cradle to grave, if you will, to borrow a phrase, which is the launching of those businesses and the growth and scale, and then the exit or acquisition of those companies.
And so if you're going to exit a company, one of the driving factors is how profitable they are.
100%. 100%.
So how do you help them to be profitable?
Well, we don't... We start with the end in mind. We start with the beginning and end. That means that the opportunity for these businesses to cash flow is obviously important. To cash flow properly and profitably is more important. And to build a profitable P&L is really the opportunity to build an asset that in 24 months is worth more in the end than any time during the business building phase. So everything we structure in the first 6 months of building is all geared towards the profitability and the profitable growth of that business. And we do it a little differently on Amazon than a lot of people do. As we were in the green room starting off, I told you about the what I call the mosh pit of Amazon, which is pretty much everybody selling $30 or less in the marketplace tend to reach a competition or hypersaturation, which kills about 70% of the sellers in the marketplace within 3 to 6 months. It is because they cannot maintain growth, sales, new product, pay themselves, and market the product. Our average order values are over $100. Our profits are typically within $30 to $50. So we are able to outcompete, outmarket, and outprofit our competition. And that is one of the reasons why these businesses are so profitable when we sell them.
So one of the things that I had asked you earlier, most people are on Amazon, they're just buying stuff and reselling it. And every time we look at those businesses, as soon as somebody talks to me, I cringe before I even have the call.
You don't want to buy a job.
It's not even a job. I mean, I've heard of people, and this was probably more, well, it was Amazon, right? Because Amazon has a minimum $3.99 shipping on books. So people were getting books for free and selling them on Amazon and realizing they weren't even making minimum wage at the end of the day.
After taxes, no.
So your stuff is all private label.
It is.
Okay. And that's because that's where you can get margins.
It's where we can get margins. It's also where brand growth, emotional driven brand affinity come into play too. It's not simply a pure profit flipping mechanism. It is actually building intrinsic value in the brand, in the eyes of the customer, and of course, in the eyes of the shareholder later on who may look at this business and want to purchase it.
So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. All of our listeners are not necessarily in e-commerce, but the principles that you're going to talk about apply to every business.
Yes.
You've taken businesses from 0 to 8 figures in 12 months.
That's correct.
How do you do that?
Well, I mean, the beauty of the FBA marketplace in this way, and the channel that this infrastructure, they spent $15 billion delivering to each of us, literally, and I'm sure you or your wife or spouse or someone in your family buys from Amazon and clicks the little add to cart button and things show up probably 2 to 3 times a week with over 100, and I think last check, over 100 plus million Prime users in America. There's a lot of us that are doing that. So the expectation is we can get it quickly. There's the trust and authority of the system. And the ability to basically do one simple pro tip here I'll give to anybody listening. The more products you put in your brand on Amazon, the more money you're going to make. And what you find is that most of those sellers are launching 1 to 2 products. We typically are looking for 5 SKUs or more in the first 12 months. We will be shooting for more like 30 to 50 to 100 SKUs in the marketplace. And when they're all wrapped around a brand driven to serve a specific customer and a solution-oriented aspect of that customer's need, the customer will repeat buy. They'll buy 2 or 3 or 4 more products. Now, any smart business owner knows to get past 7 figures, it's not the first sale of anything you do. It's the second and third time you sell that customer. It's referred to by some of my friends as a parade. It means you get them on the float. You sell them a seat on the float. As they go along, eventually they buy the float. Pretty soon they buy the truck. Then they're buying the bands and the equipment. Then they're buying the loudspeakers. And pretty soon, the parade is now theirs. This is the same concept in mind here.
Are you building relationships with them outside of Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. So brand influence and influencer authorities have become a lot easier with social media. If you look at things like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok now, in terms of influencer and capacity, there's millions of people looking to be influencers, and there's even millions upon millions of video views being watched for unboxing videos and Amazon products and influencer products, and they're actually pretty easy to get in front of. Most of them don't know how to monetize, speaking of profit, their social media accounts. And when you offer them $40 to flip a video for your product to 1 million of their subscribers, you can find that you get a lot of qualified buying traffic back to your business. Now, we do use the FBA marketplace very simply as the first leg of the business tripod. It is seen by many people, I think, online, YouTube videos, gurus, I don't know what, to be the only part of the business model. It's all you should focus on. And that's not how we see it. We see it as the first leg of proving the brand, the first ability to cash flow and profit the business, and then move into secondary channels. Could be your own website, Shopify. It could be another marketplace like Walmart or eBay. Could be a wholesale distribution deal where somebody else buys your products and takes them out to the market. Could be an influencer on QVC or another type of deal with MSNBC or somewhere to get your product featured on one of their special deals and then get it out into your own stores. Eventually, there's ways to multi-channel those brands, and you should. But we found that because there's so much traffic on Amazon, we can prove a brand relatively fast, relatively quickly, make it profitable, and then take the next steps to move it into multiple channels.
So how do you make it profitable?
It all starts with the product. It's always about the product selection and what we refer to as what the heck do I sell or what the hell do I sell, depending upon your language. It literally gets down to choosing products that are profitable, and how we do that is a data-driven and analytical-driven data model. We have a data warehouse that's been building since 2014. We analyze those and have our own algorithmic and criteria that we use to determine certain products, the marketplace, what we should sell, and what's in demand. I'll make it a little simple in this way. We don't sell in electronics. We won't sell in supplements, and we don't sell in clothing. They're highly competitive, saturated, or require a lot of overhead and a lot of turnover to continue to innovate or to gain market share back from larger corporations. It's just too competitive or too saturated. Pretty much everything else is up for game. We do sell to mostly women 27 plus, as they make up 80% of the sales volume anywhere online, especially in Amazon. And at the end of the day, when you go to a solution-oriented focus with the product, you're buying, the person's buying at an intrinsic value level, not just a product price value. They don't just look at the reviews and the price point as the value of what they're buying. They're buying the emotional component of it too. And many times they're willing to pay more for those products. So our retail prices typically are higher, or we gain and continue to increase retail prices against our competition. We know our competition in Amazon, 3, 4, 5 of them we've already targeted in our market research. So we know who they are, what they're selling, and how much they're selling and estimated to be selling. So we know that when we put a new brand in the market, we know who they are. We know what we're going to be priced at. We know what products are profitable based on our cost of goods, based on Amazon fees and shipping and logistics. And we literally have it down to 47 data points that have to be identified down at green lights through 3 profitability data points. And when those 3 profitability points are met, that product can sell. It can sell well in the marketplace. So we test it, always test, validate the data, because Amazon never gives us 100% of the data. So once we test it in the marketplace, we actually get a holistic picture of that product's opportunity. And that's very clear in the numbers as it goes out, no emotions whatsoever. And then we make sure that we're not marrying our product. It's a mindset thing. People marry their products. I hear in 3 to 4 months, I put so much money in and I did so much effort and put so much work into this. And, now I'm stuck with it. I'm married it. I can't divorce it. I can't let it go. And they really didn't start off with the right mindset. So they get stuck marrying their products. And if they determine there are so many product opportunities, if they look at it very differently, they realize there are thousands of product opportunities in the marketplace. There's actually more than most people can do in a lifetime, sitting right in front of them. They just aren't evaluating it with the right criteria.
It's the one thing that everyone struggles with, data.
It is.
In understanding what the story that the data is telling.
That's right.
And then creating a system to easily analyze it and check your metrics.
That's very well said. It's a combination. You can look at the data. You can go buy a tool online that gives you Amazon data. But if you don't really understand what you're looking at, the data can betray you. If you have history, knowledge, and experience of selling in the marketplace, if you have someone who can coach you on that or give you business coaching about what criteria and how to define and look at that analytical data, the white cars in the data will appear. You'll never have seen them before. It's an analogy we like to buy and sell on. It has to do with whether or not I saw something that wasn't there that has always been in front of me the entire time. The story goes, someone goes to buy a car. They've decided they want to buy this white Jeep, let's say, and they literally love the color, the features that go down. This is the only car like it. No one has one like it. Okay, they get in the wrong mindset. They buy the car, and then what happens on the way as they drive off the lot, Rocky? They see 3 to 4 or more of the exact same vehicles they never saw before. And on the 20-minute ride home, how many more do you think they see? They see them everywhere. All of a sudden, perspective and mindset have shifted. Once we give them the understanding of the data and we connect it to the process of which we go by evaluating the marketplace and that data, all of a sudden the white cars appear and they are everywhere. But you have to be looking at it from the right angle, or you simply will look past it and never see it.
It's amazing how blind we are to things in front of our face.
Very much so.
And that is just the human mind. And I do a lot of this on my other podcasts, but the reality is we can only take in so much information in a given second. And the amount of information we're given versus what we can take in is less than 1%. We ignore the majority just because it would cause us overload. We wouldn't know what to do with all of that.
Sometimes we don't know what the right questions to ask in order to gain insight to it, right?
So if someone's listening and they want to get into this space, what is your ideal client? Who are the types of people that you help?
The ones that have been the most successful with me have a clear understanding prior to even talking with me that e-commerce is something they want to do. They want to add it as an opportunity to remove themselves from their current job. And so they're looking at it as an intrapreneur, something they want to get going as a side hustle, something they eventually want to take over their current position, job, etc. They look at it as a diversification of assets. I have an infinite banking policy. I've got real estate holdings. I've got multi-tenants. I've got short-term rentals and franchises, and I'm tossing off cash. And I've been thinking about e-com for a while. They get involved with us because it's a business coaching, performance-driven model. And we work it very similar to a franchise without performance of profit sharing or sharing in the business ownership. They keep 100% of it. But we show them how to grow it and scale it to the point they can exit it, because that's where the real money for my company is made, is in the brokering of exits for these businesses or even the acquisitions of them. So people are typically higher net worth individuals. They like the idea of what I call almost automated income. Everybody yells about passive income, but let's talk about almost automated income. and its value there. A combination of understanding how to CEO the company correctly while growing it and learning how the business model actually works, which only takes 5 to 10 hours a week to do. It takes 5 to 10 hours a week to operate it. It literally is a pay-to-play game because we are buying assets like any other asset in real estate or franchise. You're buying physical inventory. So people understand that. They understand I could buy gold or real estate or some other type of investment asset. Necessarily not going to stick it in Wall Street per se right now. I'm looking for other ways to do it. And they understand that inventory is an asset they can turn over for profit. So they do realize there's a virtual real estate play, if you will, on Amazon, and inventory is an asset that can help see that business become worth something. So they typically are looking to diversify, and they want to spend a little time. They don't want to spend a lot of time doing it, and they are looking for someone who has already done it that they can come into a business coaching or mentorship relationship with. They don't want to take a course. They don't want to do it themselves. They don't necessarily want it done for them because they do understand the risks with that. And most of these folks are pretty smart about that. And it's something they don't necessarily understand just yet if they've never ran an e-com company. We're going to train them to be the CEO so they get a lot more confident in understanding how it works before they would turn the reins over to somebody else. My company does do that. We have passive done for you, but it's not until they reach 50 to 100,000 a month in sales before we'll actually take over management of that. And most people understand that it can become a passive opportunity after you learn how to run it. So that typically it's probably a broad criteria. It isn't kind of just a make money thing. It's a business building enterprise.
Where are most of your products sourced from? Is it all, I mean, these days it seems like everything's China, but in light of what we're doing with supply chains, I wasn't sure what you're seeing.
Well, a lot of the narrative that was built up 2 or 3 months ago around locked up supply chains in Long Beach and other stuff has actually disappeared. Most people don't recognize that because the narrative was kind of left hanging out there. The ships are unloading, the ports are moving. There's not really the same level of issues as there was before. We get stuck with that narrative and it kind of hangs out there. At this point, you can come into Seattle or Florida or New Jersey. There's a little bit longer delay in Los Angeles and Long Beach, but you can still get through relatively quick. Yes, there is a delay in product movement because of COVID. That is one of the cons about a physical product business, and we probably all feel it to some degree going down and buying things from stores and other stuff right now, or even ordering them. We're still a little bit immune to that because we buy from places like Amazon. Still shows up in 2 days. I didn't see it take the last 70 days to get here, but I got it in 2 days. So there's a bit of a disconnect, right? On the buyer side, or the seller side, if you will, of those products, you can see 30, 60, 90 days of shipping time right now. But most of the time you're seeing them moving relatively easy. The longer times are coming from China. China isn't the only de facto place you can buy from. There's lots of other places tooling up in the last few years that are taking over opportunities. And by last few years, I mean last 5 years, not just the last 2 years. We get a lot of stuff from India. You can get a lot of stuff from Italy. There's a lot more things coming out of Mexico now, and obviously Canada is still working a little bit through the trade agreements and stuff. So there are some of those opportunities, and of course, there's not as much, but there are opportunities to get product in the United States through manufacturing relationships or others. We have a couple of joint ventures with manufacturers in the United States who have product here. But again, because of the last 10 years, because of social, geopolitical, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, at the end of the day, a lot of the product manufacturing is no longer in North America. You do have to go offshore to get it. Go ahead, sorry.
Are you seeing shipping costs drop? Because I know coming into Christmas, container prices were through the roof.
They still, to a degree, are. They're holding pretty steady. Containers this time last year are double what they were last year. And that is... there's a lot of questions as to why exactly, because the manpower is, for the most part, still around. The shipping is still available. The manufacturers are still doing the stuff. So why is it taking so long? I don't know if anybody really knows the answer to what's going on there. At the end of the day, it is both a con. If you go into it eyes wide open and you understand that is a challenge, you also understand that's an opportunity for those who have cash and can do this kind of business model. When others, the saying, if there's blood in the street, there's money to be made, right? And right now, as you've mentioned earlier, many of the sellers who do not understand business, growth, scale, economies of scale, and operations to the level of small to medium-sized business at least are going to have a harder time competing in the marketplace. That's the truth. Those who do understand that or can align themselves with others who are doing that will find there's a huge opportunity. You have to be a little more patient, but once you get going, the sales are there. The people want to buy. The products just aren't as available. And if you can become someone who provides those products, they're going to sell. They're going to sell relatively fast. And if you sell them at the right profitability, we can still overcome some of those shipping and container costs, right? Because we're going to put all that into an equation and it still has to come out profitable. If it doesn't come out profitable, you don't sell it. That's a lot of the upfront work. Many of the individual sellers who have never ran a business and really understand how to go by the numbers in a business are not doing. And then they'll figure it out in 3 to 4 months when they have to shut down and they wonder where all the profit went and why they still owe taxes.
It happens. And I like the fact that you're actually starting at the beginning of running the numbers to see if the product is profitable or you don't sell it. And I think that is a step that most business owners, regardless of what kind of business they're in, miss. Now, in your business, it's a little bit easier because you've got a fixed product cost. And essentially on Amazon, you know the percentages.
Correct.
You don't have as much time involved. In other words, labor is not a big component. And that's the component that people miss when they're usually running a business. They forget the cost of all the overhead labor.
They do. And they don't factor it into the building, and that's an experience. And unless they are with someone and being mentored or coached by somebody who understands that, has done it, and can give them that nuance, they will go into the model with one expectation and come out with a completely different one. And that is where a lot of these things fail. With the way that we do things, we don't allow people to reach that level. The expectations are all set up front as to how much you invest, how much time it takes, and what the upside opportunity is. Because the asset-driven aspect of this business model, if I can talk about that for just a second, gives you that opportunity to exit this business for quite a lot of money in 24 months. There are huge amounts of capital, $7 billion as of last check, being put into the acquisition of Amazon channel-only businesses. I just got off a podcast 2 days ago, actually it was about Friday, with CEO of Quiet Light, who's done about $500 million in acquisitions, good friend Joe Valley. And basically we were talking about the criteria and the opportunity. They have a lot of money to buy these companies, and they're looking for more, either to raise them up, to grow them profitably, or get them out to market. So that is the opportunity we present, which is a little different than just the idea of making money or flipping products for profit. Now, once upon a time, we tried that model. We started with that model, and we went to expand it. We had 20,000 square feet, had 12 employees, and we were running 10 trucks a month in the wholesale FBA area, which is one of the areas you can do, or I say you could do with less trouble in 2015. Amazon has since moved most of its marketing and internal operations and support to brands. And therefore, its recent TOS update, the new guy in town at the CEO and the new guy who runs seller performance are now holding more sellers accountable and removing accounts as fast as they can catch them who are not operating within the terms of service. It was a gray area, and now it's black. We knew that in the past, and so we got it going to a degree, and then we shut it down. We shut it down because we couldn't keep the profit margin above 7% net, and we simply worked ourselves into an 80-hour-a-week job. What we found with private label, obviously, let's break it down real quick for those who are paying attention at home. It's more profitable, the higher economies of scale. I have no employees, no warehouses that I manage and maintain now. The brand potential to raise the prices as well as profitability as you grow in the marketplace and your brand becomes more represented. You can charge more for your products and your customers will still buy and feel total value against it, which is important too. And you will obviously create an asset that's worth something later on. You create operational independence and upside potential with that brand, and you prove a profitable 24-month P&L, and you can sell that business for 6-7 figures. And that's what we're looking at doing from the very beginning.
And Joe was on the podcast as well. He was back in
Fantastic.
episode 76. Great conversation. I was on his as well. And that was kind of the concept we talked about, profit first. Like you build it with profit in mind, and then you work backwards and figure out how to make it work, because that is the smart way to do it, instead of ending up with an 80-hour job that does not pay well. So
you're paying somebody else's brand and just getting yourself a job. in the end. And when you stop working it, it all ends.
You talk a lot about cash, and I know this in working with business owners who do this, is if you're ordering out of, and I'm just going to say China, it doesn't matter where in the world you're ordering out of, before that ships to the United States from wherever it's coming from, they usually have to pay in full.
Not always.
It depends
on the manufacturing relationship and the terms you can negotiate with the manufacturer. We have sourcing agents who have worked with us for a long time. They're very good at negotiating. If we get a new supplier, they go to bat first. If not, we go to bat second. Many of our manufacturers that we bring in for ourselves, as well as give access to our clients, are established. And established with terms from my business are extended to theirs. So a lot of times they will put down 30% of an order and then will not pay the remainder until it ships. So that helps with cash flow, right? And if we look at it from the OPM side, there's a lot of cheap money on the sidelines right now for products if you want to leverage that other people's money for some level of doing that. We typically leverage that on the sales side, not the upfront business startup side. And what I mean by that is typically my folks will put cash into the business initially to get it launched, to get the first series of products and get it to revenue. Once it's in revenue, the game changes, right? Register it as a DUNS, get the business credit, get it moving, get your negotiations in place for terms. We have credit opportunities and people we work with that can help with that. Work with Amex Business Alliance to help with that, okay? And the goal there is that once their sales are moving, it's easier to gain capital, an additional capital off of sales. And Amazon itself will give you terms relatively decent. They'll send you some money and say, hey, do you want this money for 3, 7, 10%? Depends upon what you're selling and how much. And literally, they'll give you that opportunity to do that. Sourcing and manufacturing terms, we help negotiate so that it isn't a full price up front. Now, let's also make one last point there to not belittle that. How much are you ordering initially? Most of the sellers I see that fail order too much up front. They don't test the products initially. They're not failing fast to fail up. So they're ending up putting too much money in products that do not have a qualified return. Because again, they don't know their numbers. So what it is that we do a little differently is we're going to test that product. We're going to test a smaller amount. We're going to test rapidly and quickly in a brand. We're going to find those winners, and then we're going to scale the winners. We're going to do it off the data. We're not going to guess. So typically, capital investment of a larger sum will go against known sales for larger order inventory that needs to come in. And then you're going to sell it because you're just continuing to sell. In fact, most of the people on my calls right now are figuring out how to slow down sales. Because they're going to run out of product, and you don't want to stock out on Amazon. So they got to slow their sales down in order to keep a stock out from happening while they're waiting for the next round of product to come in. So that's a good problem to have, frankly.
So we just tell people to raise prices. Do you have another way to slow sales?
Absolutely. And I won't tell you on this call.
That's perfectly acceptable.
Raising prices is one of those things. Let's just say it is one of those things we've learned to do, but it isn't the only thing you should do.
There's multiple ways to do that. That makes
Correct.
Total sense. Is there anything you wanted to share today but didn't get a chance to?
I don't think so, but I just want to hammer down one common theme off of this call. If you didn't catch everything in the details, either I'm talking too fast or it's just a lot of information. The one simplified thing here is build the business with the end in mind. Focus on the profits of the product and do your diligence up front and answer that question, what the hell am I going to sell before you ever sell a single unit? Understand the market and competition and really understand who's selling and how they're selling and how long they've been selling. And don't guess. It's a numbers and data-driven deal. Keep the platinum principle in mind, and that is you're building an asset that is worth something in the future. You're not just flipping products for profit. You're not trading time for money. You're building something that will be worth intrinsic value later to yourself, to your family, to your business. And the upside potential is much greater when you put yourself in that mindset than the idea that I'm just going to flip products for profit.
Makes total sense. If people want to connect with you and learn more, what is the best place for them to find you?
Very simple. Go to voltagedm.com. VOLTAGE. I almost said that wrong. Holy crap. VOLTAGEDM.com, voltagedm.com. Check out the information. There's a free video there with myself and Kevin where we talk about how we grew and scale some of these companies and how you can learn a little bit about what we're doing. It's free training. Check it out. And if you have any questions at the end, you can either just text me or connect. It's very personal. Don't have a sales team. Don't want one. Only work with people I think are going to be a good fit for the goals and objectives that we're after. And if it matches up, we have a conversation and we see where we go from there.
I like that business model. It's the one I use myself.
Yeah. You keep it profitable.
Keep it Hey, that, you know what? This whole business was reverse engineered based on time, what I wanted out of life, and everything else to make it worthwhile. So I totally get it.
Very good.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky, for having me on. I appreciate you.
I like to do these exercises with my clients when they look for new products, markets, and businesses. If you want to be in the e-commerce space, talk to Neil. He knows it. Go back and listen to the episode with Joe Valley that we mentioned. He knows it as well. It takes a lot of time to figure out your business, and that's why having people on your team who already know the way and can be your Sherpa is wise. You just have to follow what the math and the market says. It's not always easy from an ego standpoint. I get it. Building a profitable company from the ground up is the smart way to do it. Don't forget to test your ideas before you commit. Small baby steps in an organized process. I don't care if Neil can sell millions. We want to know, how much can we keep? Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.